Come in, guys. Garden Report, final preseason show, final preseason game. Real stuff is happening, and we got a lot to talk about. And so we're gonna get into it. We're gonna warn you ahead of time. It's gonna be a short show. So we're gonna go for about 30 minutes tonight. We're gonna try to get it all in. And really, there's two big stories right now, and really only two things worth talking about. One, overall, sure, yes, good effort tonight. Missing 4 of your best 6 players. The Heat played their starters. They played it like a real game. That was great. They lose, but I liked overall what we saw. Don't pay attention to the final score. This was a good game. Actually, there's a few good things to talk about. But the bad thing is the first thing, and we have to talk about it because it's really a kick in the teeth for anybody here who's got a lot of Rob
John.
Williams. For anyone who's got a lot of Rob Williams stock, and that's me. Rob has been diagnosed with knee tendinopathy, which is basically patellar tendonitis, which is known as jumper's knee. We're not going to play doctor here. We're just going to say this freaking stinks. And you know, I'm not going to play I told you so with he didn't look right, but he hasn't looked right, and he doesn't look like he's been jumping. And one of the reasons he's not jumping, he has jumper's knee, and so here we freaking go with this guy, man. And I don't even know what to do. I'm so depressed about it. You guys?
I thought it was fatigue. I didn't know this thing is like medical now, you know? That's what worries me, but it's still early, John, but I hear what you're saying. All right, put it that way.
Josue, I'm not pulling it's early card on this one. Because this is an issue, and you know this, Josue. We've been talking about Rob Williams and potential and trying to work through injuries forever and a day. And so this is par for the course with that guy. I love his game. I love when he's healthy, but that's the problem. I can't get his ass healthy enough for any extended period of time.
Is this bad luck, though? Is this bad luck, or is this you didn't take care of yourself when you were supposed to? And I'm not just trying to be that guy, but I'm just asking straight up.
I don't think it's that. I think this is just he's going to be someone who it's a roll of the dice whether he's going to be healthy or not.
Yeah. So I think it's a kind of a chicken or the egg thing. I think he's not in great shape. He looked to me not like a person who put on muscle through a training program in the offseason. He just looked bigger. He looked puffier. He didn't look chiseled or jacked or rounded shoulders or cut up arms. He looked thicker to me. It looked to me like a guy who didn't work out much this offseason. Now, what you don't know is, one, we don't know that's for sure. He might just have one of those like Paul Pierce style bodies that doesn't really get cut up, and that's just how he is, and that's how he's going to look. Fine. You can give a bunch of benefit of the doubt sort of things. But what we don't know is, is he not able to go hard, to go through a rigorous offseason, to change his body type, to get into good physical condition, because he has these chronic issues and this blood flow thing and all of this stuff that he's constantly dealing with, keeping him from really being able to work and so he's always got to manage what he does physically speaking? Or is he in bad shape, which is why he keeps getting hurt, because he has muscle weakness everywhere, and an explosive athlete like Rob, who's bounding all over the place and flying through the sky, has weakness in all around, his muscles, causing tendonitis in his joints and his knees and things like that. I have no idea what it is, but I think this is the last thing in the world you wanted on the eve of the start of the season, on a guy you just put your faith in and gave the money to. And again, I don't know if he shows up and he plays the opener and he plays 20 straight games, and fine, everyone can say, John, you freaked out and overreacted for nothing. I'm just not seeing it going that way. And I am, I'm on as optimistic as I am about Rob in general, I'm mashing the panic button right now. I am mashing the panic button.
I'm not mashing the panic button. I'm concerned about this because it is a chronic issue with him. And the thing, and John, you kind of alluded to this.
And Udoka's playing it cool. Udoka apparently is saying he'll be all right. We'll see. I just don't trust
that before.
I don't trust the Celtics with medical stuff, so that's my thing, and especially on Rob.
He's new to the team, so he doesn't.
Yeah, right. That's what they told you. It doesn't really mean that's the case. But go ahead, Sherrod. Go ahead.
No, to your point earlier, we don't know the trickle down effect of the blood flow issue and some of the other injuries he's had on his ability to get in shape. And my concern right now is that you got a player who is only going to be able to give you peak 20, 25 minutes a game. And that blows. If that's like the ceiling for him, if that's the most you're going to get from him in terms of playing time. And as some of the folks in the chat have mentioned, I mean, you're thinking about Moses Brown and how he would have been nice to just be able to kind of throw out there just to see what he could do.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because I was thinking that was the insurance policy on Rob, and they
That's
just
what
let
I
that
thought.
policy go.
Yeah, for no reason. That was the classic. Al is older. Rob is injury prone. I was stunned at the Mo Brown thing, and everyone's like, "Dude, Mo Brown sucks." It doesn't matter. It's a rotational bench big that made no money that was controllable for years. And Sherrod even said it. You know, Sherrod and I were both banging. You don't trade a guy like Mo Brown. You're thrilled to have Mo Browns on your team because guys who can play, who make that little, and you have them locked up and controlled. But this comment here is interesting because this is
so what's about my voice, man? What's with this mic? Do I sound weird or what?
Yeah, just I have as much faith in your technical capabilities as I do Rob's health in these shows. Okay, it's about the same. It's about, but.
Man, I'm crystal clear this time, though.
This comment is everything because we talked about it when Rob said this to Bobby, you know, and he said, or when we were talking about when Rob said this in the offseason, my goal is to play 60 games. We were like, that's a shitty goal. Like, that's 3/4 of the season. Your goal is your pie in the sky dream is to play 75% of games. And that was a major red alert for me.
Yep. He knows his body better than anybody.
Yeah.
And when he dropped that 60-game nugget, that should have been our clue that, you know what? He knows that his body is not going to withstand the rigors of a typical NBA season. That he's going to have to take some timeouts. He's going to miss some games. They're going to have to go load manage with him. I think it's pretty obvious.
But everyone's telling me I'm freaking out for no reason.
We knew this before the start of the season, though. I'm gonna try to use my when I was 12 voice, I guess, or 8 voice. But we knew this before the season even started because we knew the track record that Rob has going into this. What you thought that just a magic summer or the fact that fresh off of what we saw last season, did you really think that he was going to come in and play 30 minutes? It doesn't work that way. Plus all the extra weight that he's put on, all the muscle he's put on.
Josue's anonymous right now.
No, I don't know man. What about now?
I'm about
to throw away this whole thing.
Our demands are as follows. You will flip the money into the drawer.
$100 million in 20
the worst Batman. I mean, it wasn't the worst. But...
That's so good. Put on the mask. Go full anonymous here.
But no, in all seriousness, guy, we knew we were gonna have to ramp him up here. Yeah, I'm unplugging this whole thing.
Your mic is crackling too. I like right now. The Wi-Fi is the best thing you have going,
and that's the thing.
Which is sad.
Yeah. So good.
So all you guys with Rob Williams stock, are you guys ready to just completely cash it in, or are you going to ride this out a little bit?
You know me, Sherrod, by now. I
ready to cash that shit in.
I react instantly, okay, to things, and yes, I might. Do I overreact? Maybe from time to time. Am I right? Every once in a while,
or a lot.
Quite a bit.
We went from once in a while to quite a bit. Damn.
But this Rob thing, the first preseason game, I come in there, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to make it all about Rob. But
you have a choice.
I'm really worried about Rob. You know, like I didn't like what I saw at all. Josue, you got to go. Bye. Fix it. He's sorry. Yeah, he's got to leave and come back. Anyway. I'm not taking victory laps over that, but I'm quick to make a judgment. I didn't like what I saw early, and then the diagnosis kind of confirms what the eye test is telling you, that he's got a little something. So we'll see. And some people are saying I'm never right. Okay, yeah, never right. No, not about Kemba. We had a group apology cam at the end of last year, but sure. Bobby,
hey,
what did Ime say? He said everything's fine. Rob's going to be great, right?
Yeah, I mean, he said we'll keep an eye on him, so we'll see where this goes. But, I mean, it wasn't your death sentence.
It's not. It's a bad sign, like, to have this right now. right?
No, it
Yeah,
is.
because
I mean, this is something that like tendinitis or tendinopathy, whatever you want to call about it, that by definition is a lingering thing. And I actually
Right.
asked that once, he gave the prognosis that he will be back, whether that's going to be something they have to manage game by game. And he said he hasn't heard anything on that yet. So I think there's still some information to come on this. But it is good that they're at least aiming to have him back within a game.
We won't see him for
within the
10
next game.
games.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be stunned if that's what ends up happening.
I
so.
wouldn't be stunned. I'd be stunned if he played early in the first couple of games.
Yo, I don't need no stinking mic.
Which
Yes,
is fine. I mean, I was saying this in the group chat. Rob's the ceiling raiser on this team, but in terms of surviving game in and game out, it's not devastating to be missing him a few games here or there. You want to play the long game with actually having him ready at the most important time of year, which is kind of what they did last year, I felt like, with the minute limitations and everything else there. And this team isn't as thin at that center spot as last year's was, where it's devastating to be missing him.
But we're reaching the point. Like, the problem here is, like, it's not an overreaction to the injury. It is, we were basing everything on Rob on injuries being fluky, him not being injury prone, and you take the leap of faith and you give him the contract and you say that for this team to get to the next level, you're going to need Rob to continue his ascent, to be all-star caliber. And now we're recalibrating expectations and saying, if they get something out of him, we're fine. No, he's supposed to be a star on this team. And if he's not, you should not have paid him a freaking cent, and you should have just gone back to the.
John.
If this is what you have,
but you knew that was a gamble worth taking, though, John.
I thought it was a gamble worth taking only because at worst you get what you got last year, which is probably worth close to. So you're not going to lose.
What do you got?
Yeah, but you have more than a year to work with that, John. Right? This isn't. You're not. You're not doing.
It's surprising they didn't go with more of an incentive-based contract for sure.
Yeah,
My only thinking on that is if you go the incentive route with the things we've been talking about with setting up trades, is that doesn't count toward salary matching and that kind of thing if he doesn't hit those numbers. So I think they minimize that as much as possible. It only ended up being about like $6 million there.
But the thing with Rob is we were trying to decide whether or not we thought the injuries were a bit fluky, and if he gets himself right, has a full offseason, he goes in there and there's no reason why he can't play. But now you're starting to think it's chronic. He's got issues that are never going to go away, and you're starting out with this right out of the gate and completely throwing.
Yeah, that's the concern, right?
That's
like
the big
one.
concern. Is I think we can now feel fairly confident when we say this is how it's going to be with him. Last year we could ask questions: is it fluky? Was there a few things going on? Or is he just a guy who's going to always be dealing with injuries because of X, Y, and Z? It's hard to think that's not going to be the case, which is really depressing because it's just more a reality check than anything. That's all.
The
question is whether he can play through this stuff, right?
I don't know.
Played through the turf toe.
And what if he plays it?
Things.
What if he plays and he's not the explosive role? What if the version of him you see is the guy we saw in the preseason? Who again, I don't know why people argued with me on like Twitter over this. Like, he looks fine. He clearly didn't look fine. He didn't jump the whole preseason. He never got off his feet up over the rim and did anything explosive. He was very measured and played really
Taking
slow.
A lot of jump shots. Yeah.
Jump shots. It was very passive and so unlike him. He didn't do anything to showcase his freakish athleticism, which is what separates him from everybody. Without that, what is he?
Not
what are
good.
they without him?
That's serious, Sherrod, what is he without that? He's
not
okay.
Very good.
Yeah,
they're not very good because he provides a dynamic to their roster that no one else can.
The gravity,
and you can't make up that athleticism. You can't make up that size. We saw Enes Kanter is a great offensive rebounder. He can score around the rim, but defensively he's a turnstile. He's not stopping anyone.
Yeah,
and that we saw. I mean, I'm listening to Scal in the broadcast, and he's talking about. I'm trying to figure out where exactly is Enes supposed to be on this particular defensive rotation because he seems to be the one
scary.
Yeah, you just don't you don't know how he fits in and what you're trying to do defensively, and then you look at Al's in isolation now, and
the really scary thing about Kanter is that they can't run the system that they want to run here. It doesn't seem like they want to drop as much.
He's just a few minutes coming off the bench in spurts and see if you can get some offense and he can work it on the glass. because this is going to be a short-ish show, we do have to move on. We could talk about this for a while because I do think it is a large story, but I think it will not do justice to some of the other people who definitely deserve some of our time. And so I'm going to let Sherrod start out with his boy, who has now Sherrod, because of this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Is as far as investment goes, I was the only guy holding Romeo stock. Literally the only guy on the
bought
planet.
it from John for like 2
And
cents.
I got it all. I
And
got
I-
all that
and I-
Romeo stock when it was worthless.
I dumped it for nothing. I had all of it. I dumped it for nothing.
Thank
now
you very much.
Now, so again, this is the guy who I thought we might see and then gave up on. After the lackluster Vegas league, we're like, nope, same guy. He doesn't get it. And my God, 2 weeks ago, Bobby, we're talking about he might not even have a role, period, on this team. I mean, I remember Jay King did his minutes breakdown on The Athletic, and he had Romeo with 0. So
and then everyone got hurt.
I know, but Sherrod, you start in on it because you've got all the stock, so you get all the airtime.
Well, here's the thing about Romeo that I like. He's doing exactly what you want him to do, and that is make the most of your moment out there. He's either knocking down shots, playing good defense, doing all the things that if you are a young guy who it's not going to get much burn, but now you got your moment, do the damn thing. Make plays. Force Ime to choose between whether he's going to play you or someone else. Am I going to play the guy who's being productive, or am I going to play the guy who I like? Romeo is making it very hard for Ime to keep him out of that top 6, 7, 8 man rotation, and that's what you're supposed to do. And the thing is, all he's doing is what he's capable of doing. There's nothing fancy or special about what Romeo's doing. He's wide open. He's making a shot. A guy beats you off the dribble, close out, force him to take a contested shot. All the basic fundamental things, and he's doing it consistently now.
Yeah.
He's scoring at 3 levels, though.
And I'll even take it one step further, right? Because obviously he's doing the fundamentals. He's where he's supposed to be. He's running the plays, but he's also adding a little finesse to it, right? A little of his own salt in it, if you will, right? Putting the ball on the floor, getting those open looks. He's kind of feeling himself. Yeah, he had that look going. He's feeling himself. He was talking to Max a bit because he talked to him. I mean, he played with him back when he was with the Celtics, a couple years ago. He's chit-chatting. Like, this is someone that's looking way more comfortable out there. Whether it's coming in a different kind of role, whether it's starting, he's out there, he's playing, he's not thinking too much, and he's doing his thing. I mean, honestly, sometimes I feel like we get some more of this Romeo when he's on the road, but I know overall, just from the preseason, from what we've seen, he's certainly stepped it up overall. But I just feel like tonight he was just sort of in the zone, but very comfortable out there, which is a very good sign.
He's the story of the preseason, right?
I think so.
I would say so.
Yeah. Other than obvious, the guys missing who should be
the
out
injuries
there.
and all that. But in terms of a player, and this is what's crazy. How many times did we say last year? Secret to the team's success is not who they get, and it's not what they do in free agency or if they swing a big trade. They'll be better if the kids that they currently have get better, and if they don't, they won't. Everybody looks better. Romeo looks leaps better. Neesmith has shown some improvement for sure. He had a couple of pull-ups and step back tonight. He's stepping into his shots. He's hitting his threes earlier instead of starting cold, which I definitely think hurts him. Pritchard, we saw him in summer league. He looked like he could score from anywhere, and his shot looks lethal right now. Slim Grant is friggin' skying for dunks right now. Everybody but Rob.
How are you not going to mention Peyton Pritchard? That's my story.
I did. You just blanked right out, my man.
Oh, he's the story of the preseason. He's the one passing.
You prejudged me. You're like, John's not going to mention Pritchard.
Bobby just wants to get in his 2 cents about seeing Pritchard. I'm not even going to repeat what you said last week about that whole starting business, but getting that vital role just out of the sole fact that he's one of the better, if not the best 3-point shooter on this team right now. So that's what Bobby's getting at, I think.
Yeah. And the facilitation's getting there. I mean, he has helped Langford and Neesmith come along here. That's a big part of this too. But Langford, I'm not going to take away from anything here. Like, you were right. We thought this guy was lost. It was media day saying, I don't know my role here. All of a sudden, I think there's a real chance this guy could start if Al Horford and Jaylen Brown are missing on opening night. Langford.
Neesmith,
absolutely.
Neesmith is right now, if Rob misses it, I'm going. Then he's a lock to start. I think because you're going to start Horford as a traditional big. You're going to start Tatum. You're going to start Marcus, and then who? I think he's the fourth automatic
Richardson,
starter.
maybe. I think it's Richardson or Langford, and depending if Brown's out,
It's
too,
Romeo,
then,
man.
Yeah,
I think
it could be both.
I think Ime showed you tonight what he thinks. This was supposed to be the game where, this is the dress rehearsal. And if Romeo we say that, but then Jabari started. But I think that was just
it's safe to say nothing win is planned for Ime this whole preseason. Okay, this whole preseason, Ime is like, yo, this is what head coaching life is like. Jeez, like, I can't plan on anything to go my way. Like,
right.
Well, Langford compliments these starters well too.
That's a good point, Josue. My God, is he dealing with a lot right now? And
he hasn't even had his debut. You know, his official debut hasn't even happened yet. Jeez.
Right. Wait till something real happens, and then you start to question his, performance. Right now, he's just dealing with friggin',
If this team comes out the gate 500, like a 10-10 or 12-12, that train will come up. For sure.
Meanwhile, Schroeder's stepping on guys.
but Rome, like I said,
Butler stepped on his foot first. That was a turning point in this game.
Was a back and forth.
Oh wait, hold on, guys. I know it's preseason, but you already know I was so hyped when Jason Tatum said, "Hold on, veteran. That's my man. You about to step on real quick." He didn't get in his face, right? He didn't get Jimmy Butler's face.
Oh, was there a confrontation?
That's the attitude I want to see from Jason Tatum. Okay,
does that count as a confrontation?
Yeah, a little confrontation in preseason. I like it.
That's a 2021 confrontation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's as good as it gets, so I'll take it.
We'll see if Max counts that one.
The last guy, because like I said, because it's
I know I gotta tell Max about that.
Because it's a short show, the last guy we do have to talk about here is definitely Schroeder. We hadn't gotten a chance to see him, and he was just hitting threes and jumpers in Bobby's eye all night. Just stepping back and putting it right in Bobby's face all night long. No, but look, what do you like about him? He attacks. And that's such a big...
John. Huh? Yeah. You had a take on this development here in terms of a starting point guard on this team.
Yeah, I did. But I mean, right now, like I said, I make quick judgments. I wonder if Schroeder
for the Hall of Fame.
I wonder if Schroeder took Marcus's job tonight.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
You know what? I mean, quiet as kept.
The way he was playing out there too.
On the last episode of the A-List podcast, Kwani and I had that very conversation because when we talked about Marcus being suspended, I mean, think about it. The last time Marcus missed the game, well, not the last time, but remember how Isaiah Thomas got his opportunity. Marcus missed the game, and then that snowballed into more games. Next thing you know, Isaiah Thomas is like an all-star, and Marcus is a really good sixth man. I don't think that's going to happen with Schroeder, but would any of us be shocked if it did?
Well, the reason no is because we've always said we truly believe Marcus's best role is as a sixth man. I think he's miscast as a starting point guard with the asked to carry the load in the way that a traditional starting point guard does. He's not great at creating shots and creating offense. He's not a bad passer, but he's not elite by any means, and he doesn't have a deadly shot. So he's one of those give the game what it needs sort of guys, fill a bunch of different roles, come off the bench, play point, play shooting guard, play power forward if you have to, guard Zion in the post. He literally does everything. But the philosophy with Marcus was if he only has one job to do, he'll be better at it. But he's not excellent at that. It's not he's not born to be a point guard.
I just think this was a unique situation, though, because when you look at Marcus and how long he's been with the team and what he means to the team, it was sort of like you had to give him that opportunity to
definitely
lead the team. You know what I mean? Like you had to give him that opportunity. And especially when you look at the score first point guards that you just went through, right? And he sat there in the wing, and not to say that he deserved to start over those guys, but he was able to find his own role. And I think that in terms of being a passer and a facilitator, he was coming off his best season of doing that. So it was sort of in the cards for him to take on this role. But yeah, if Schroeder does steal it, it wouldn't shock me. But I do think that the Celtics are going to they wouldn't just make that change right away. It would have to be gradual.
I agree. Politically, Ime couldn't do it.
Exactly. Politically, it wouldn't be good for him.
I
the
think
first
I think
6
Schroeder
weeks
should
or
play.
whatever.
I think he should play a ton because he's automatic scoring. You know, you got to get up to whatever amount of points you're going to need
He
to win
puts
each game, and
pressure on
he's
the
gonna.
defense.
He's an agitator. He's an
Yes.
ultimate agitator. I love those guys.
And I
Love
think
it.
he's just he's the best driver on this team. I think the
Yeah.
most pure
Yeah,
speed.
and
downhill
defensively,
the
you have to
rim.
look over your shoulder every time. Yeah.
No,
You
yeah,
want
and
to put
he's-
pressure on the defense. You want to make it hard to play against. When you just sit back and you shoot a bunch of jumpers, you make it really easy on the defense. Like you want guys pressuring, and go into the hole and
so that's why I want him on the bench. He can kind of have his own time there to take a bunch of shots, do what he needs to do to put up the numbers, and lead that second unit. I think that was the whole idea in bringing him here. When you hear Ime talk about, we had conversations with guys coming in about their roles, starting, bench, that kind of stuff. Even Schroeder himself said, I want, you always want to start, but whatever this team needs. I think they're fully prepared to have him come off the bench and own that role. And again, he did that in Oklahoma City stupendously.
Yeah, but the one thing he did mention that hasn't gotten a whole lot of attention is, he's okay with coming off the bench, but he wants to be on the floor down a stretch. He made that pretty clear. He wants to be in that last 5, not the
That's
first 5.
That's the big question with this team. Who's
your last 5?
5?
What's your closing group? And Schroeder, he wants to be
with
that group.
I think I think you're going to have a very clear dynamic. If you're ahead, you're going to want Marcus, and if you're behind, you might want somebody who creates more offense. So you can see games where they're trailing or it's close or they're having a difficult time getting buckets. That Schroeder's getting those minutes. And I think you're going to
both. No, that's your offense defense right there. I think the only thing you're worried about, and I think this is a part of Marcus's. But this is a part of Marcus's game that he's added to. At least this is what I've seen before he was suspended. He's starting to attack the rim more, obviously looking for open guys, but he's got to find ways to score while he's in there. Pick his pockets and pick time throughout the game where he can get in there.
Shoot some threes.
It depends.
Also, knock down your free throws. Like that's something I think that if he can get that up and he gets more confident in that, then you have your offense defense. Then you have your backcourt to finish the games. And it won't necessarily matter whether both of those guys are starting or not.
By the end of the year, we'll be talking about Pritchard in this conversation.
I love it. Bobby, I'm going to ask you this question because I have to bail. Do you have studio control and you want to keep going for a little bit?
I can. I just need you to send me that link the page you're on right now.
So you go back, you got to leave and go to events and log in with your controls. We'll keep talking for a little bit. I have to bail, but Bobby might keep the show going. Sherrod also is not going to be super long for this night, but there are a few things we did want to talk about, Schroeder being one of them. I did think we saw a little bit out of Richardson tonight we hadn't really seen yet, and that was important for him because he'd been a kind of lightning rod for a lot of fans on this team. But again, I don't know. It's really hard to guess who earned their minutes and who's going to play where in the rotation because they might start the season without 3 starters or 2 starters.
Yeah, but I think Romeo has locked himself into being in that top 8 rotation, whether it's a starter coming off the bench. I can't see them going into that opener, even if you got everyone healthy and good to go, without Romeo being in that top 8 or 9 right now. He's been that good. He's been that good.
Yeah. It's no question. You got to ride this wave and see where it gets you. I mean, at this point too, that Romeo he's had a frustrating start to his career. So it's like, if this is what we're getting out of him and he's obviously feeling comfortable and feeling great out there, then keep it going, and that doesn't necessarily mean you squeeze him for all he's worth, but I just think keep him in that rotation will be huge for his confidence and also for the outlook of the season. You want that to be a consistent thing, or if not, let him earn his keep, so to speak. He's sort of earned that spot, I think, up until this point, all the way from summer league. You can even tie that into what we're seeing the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bobby, you can let yourself in if you have studio control. He is in. I'm going to bail, guys. I'm going to let Bobby run the show from here. Sherrod, if you want to leave, just tell these guys you're leaving. I'm back. We are back. We are back when?
Wednesday night.
People are talking about whether we'll do a preview. We might do something earlier in that day. We might do a preview.
We'll have some breaking news, John. Come on.
We will definitely be. We might jump on for a little bit, even if it's just me and Bobby pregame or Josue or whoever's around. Postgame for sure. We're going to hang out. So make sure you keep it with us. I'm going to bail. I'll let these guys continue talking. But again, some good things. Rob, I need some good news. We'll see what happens.
Romeo, my Romeo,
Romeo.
my guy.
Romeo was balling out.
Yeah.
All right.
Almost
All
a
right, guys,
complete 180.
I'm out.
There goes Sherrod. It's going to be Josue and Bobby. For a
Wow,
few
he was
minutes.
serious. He was joking for about 16 seconds.
This is fine. We used to do this.
Yo,
We'll go
I
a few
brought
more
this
minutes
mic,
here.
and it got weird on me. Now the camera's getting weird on me. Oh no.
Hold on. We'll go back to the normal view. All right. We'll
There you
take a
go.
few questions. I think we can do a little national conversation here too, at least in the East, kind of seeing where things are at here as the season gets started. Any questions people have about the Celtics going into the year, we'll take them here in the chat.
And then before we go, you got to get my Darth Vader voice. All right, I'll plug the mic back in. We'll do the whole thing again.
So when you look at the East, Josue,
Back your Barry White voice. What's up?
where do you see the Celtics stacking up here?
I still think best case scenario. I mean, if I'm a betting man, that fourth seed is maybe they lock that up, and that's not the worst case.
Home
in the
court?
world. I mean, yeah, fourth. I don't know if I could put them in that third spot, but then again, we have to wait to see what Brooklyn looks like. You know, I'm still having those preconceived notions of what that team's going to look like at the end of the regular season, and with or without Kyrie, we'll have to wait and see. But that's still a really good Brooklyn Nets team out there. And in the meantime, I'm going to put the Celtics at like 4, best case scenario. They get the home court advantage in the playoffs. But I mean, Rob is obviously this is going to be a slow start for him, regardless of where you fall in this conversation in terms of this going to be the story of Rob's career or whether this is going to be something that's another year that we have to add to those, the frustrating ramp ups till we finally see him put it all together for a full, complete regular season. I still think it's a little early. I mean, I was concerned about him being more out of shape than anything. And I was thinking, we've seen this in the past before, especially 3rd, 4th year guys who come into training camp not in the best of shape. And they sort of think, and especially when you think about the last 2 seasons, the way they were combined, and now these guys finally get a full off season. And it's natural. It's human nature to lay back and maybe not stay in the gym as much as you usually would. Maybe that's the case. And obviously that doesn't help for someone with chronic injury like this, because you have to work your way out of that, or at least wait for it. But when it comes to Rob, I'm still going to wait it out a bit. We'll see what happens. But if this is the story of the regular season, then that drastically changes the Celtics' outlook for where they're going to be ranked up when it comes to playoff time.
For sure. To me, he's the ceiling raiser. Like, if this team is going to jump into that top 3 echelon, it was going to be because he's pushing them at that 8-3 percentage, whatever that is in terms of win percentage, when he was out there as the starter with this group. He didn't look like himself all preseason. And to me, the conditioning, and he did comment on his own conditioning, could be better. I don't think he's brutally out of shape. I don't think he's in his elite prime shape that he could be, but it doesn't line up to me with the motivation he talked about in getting the contract, the goals he had set out for this year. Maybe it's a case of he doesn't know how hard he could work. Maybe he thinks this is like the peak of that he could, be going in at, and it's actually another echelon that he could be rising to workout wise. But you see this guy, he's, 11 feet over the rim, 11 feet off the ground when he's dunking. I don't think that's a guy who's just mailing it in the weight room and, not putting the work into his body that he needs. Now, in terms of the health, there's a reason this guy went 27 of the Celtics. At the end of the day, we've heard about blood condition. He's had the hip issue, knees galore, all the kinds of issues with the knees, and it's both knees now. It was the other knee last year.
Which you don't want to hear from a young 7-footer.
Yeah, so it feels like he's just kind of predisposed to these things. There were concerns about his work ethic and, burst and engine at A&M. The Time Lord thing, what made him Time Lord, I think that came and went very quickly. I think all the other stuff he's kind of proven wrong. The health, sometimes guys just have terrible medicals and, it follows through and a guy's never the same. Look at Michael Porter on Denver, just became a $200 million man. He went 14th. That's the number 1 pick in the draft if his medical was better.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that draft too. That was a guy that everyone was talking about on draft night because you had no idea where he was going to land. It's just interesting because I just don't want that 3-month span or whatever the case was, last season or to be lightning in the bottle, like the story of Robert Williams. That's where he peaked.
What
Because
if?
obviously
There's too
if
many
you're the
what ifs in
Celtics,
Celtics history already.
I mean, yeah, but you sign him to this contract. And again, I don't know if you were here for when John was talking about how could you do that? That was a gamble worth taking, though. And I think everyone would agree with that. You couldn't let him get out into the open market, especially if he was able to match what we saw last year, or better yet, even perform better. He'd be long gone. And if you're the Celtics, and especially Celtics fans, they would say, well, why didn't you re-sign him? I just think it's an investment worth taking, or worth waiting for. I'm not quite ready to hit the panic button yet. Not yet.
No, and I think with all the guys that they've lost, Hayward, Irving, Morris, Rozier, for nothing, absolutely nothing.
Right.
You at least put yourself in a position. All right,
To
maybe
keep a
Rob
draft pick.
fizzles out.
Right.
You can get a second-round pick for him eventually or something if someone else wants to take a flyer on him. Now, that's way down the line. Ultimately, I think the motive there is to have money on the books to make a big splash, maybe a stepping stone trade in between to that big splash. You just give yourself a lot of flexibility with what they did. Again, no one's becoming free agents in the NBA over the next couple of years. They didn't prevent themselves from doing anything by signing these different guys. Everybody's taking that guaranteed money. I think you're going to see Bradley Beal take that massive contract very quickly within the next year or so here, and maybe make a decision from there. This talk of Zion, I think Zion has his eyes elsewhere if he ultimately makes that bold decision to pass up on the massive max contract with New Orleans at the end of his rookie deal. That would be the first time anybody ever did that. But again, you look across the league. Is there anybody out there that you want that re-signing Rob, re-signing Smart, doing those things prevents you from doing? I think it almost puts you in a better position to make one of those kind of deals in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they gave him a whole lot, when you look at the years per, but I just think if he's broken goods or damaged goods,
He makes less than Kelly Olynyk during this deal.
What's that?
He makes less than Kelly Olynyk over the course of this deal.
I know, which is funny because you think of the deal that he signed after he left Boston with Miami, but I just think it's one of those risks that is worth taking. And even if it doesn't pan out, yeah, sure, you can squeeze him in a trade, but it makes it harder now, though, right, Bobby? Because I just don't know if teams want to sign up for that type of player, who has those chronic injuries.
I don't think Rob has great value.
Of his deal, we're talking towards the back end of that deal, maybe, but
I don't think Rob has great value around the NBA right now. I think
guys
would be
what
intrigued.
I mean. So it's tough.
If someone says, "All right, I can have this guy as a flyer," and I am listed as John Zannis right now.
Oh yeah,
nobody mistakes. I'm not gonna try to fill that part. Kelly, I'm not gonna knock Kelly. Kelly is a good player, but again, that's where Rob is in the hierarchy. I think we all know Rob is a higher ceiling than Kelly if he hits it. I just pulled out this over-under list. I'm gonna do more of this on Dome Theory over the weekend because I love doing this every year. But it does just give you an idea of where people who know some things hold the Celtics. I think the GM survey had them 5th in the East. This one, over-unders, you got Nets 56.5. It's high. Bucks 54.5. Sixers 50.5. So people still high on the Sixers despite the chaos there. And then 48.5 the Heat, who the Celtics obviously saw today. And then it's actually tied for that 5th spot. Hawks, Celtics, kind of a toss-up there. And it was a toss-up last year.
Yeah, see, people are gonna put the Hawks and Celtics neck and neck, and I guess that's fair, especially now with everything that's going on between Rob's injury and but a lot of it's based on their performance from last season. But don't get me wrong, but Atlanta's gonna be a really good team. They'll certainly be in the mix for sure. So they've earned that spot. So, but yeah, I'm sure Celtics fans are kind of like, well, you kind of have to give them their due.
I like the Heat tonight, too. I really like that team. I love Kyle Lowry. That was a guy, if I could pick anybody in the league last year to put on that Celtics team, it would have been him.
Yeah, you were trying to trade from the deadline.
Yep. I was trying to trade for John Collins. There were a lot of guys I pointed out that I think really could have helped the Celtics if they got proactive with it and aggressive. I mean, they still have 6 future first-round picks. That's a story for another day.
Did you really send that email, though, that you're going to send? I'm just kidding. People are gonna be like, "What?" Bobby emailed Celtics. You emailed Danny. Remember that? That was crazy. I told you don't do it.
I put out the pitch, but it got ignored. It went to the spam.
It went to the spam. Then he was like, "Wait a minute, what about Al though?" And then the whole thing started.
But remember, Josue, think of how thin the line is. This team slipped a little bit at the end of last year, and all of a sudden they're in a winner-take-all play-in game to come into the playoffs. I don't think that's out of question this year. If things aren't right health-wise, COVID-wise, there's a lot of variables that we're already starting to see.
Barring those injuries, or barring Celtics missing a lot of games, or players missing a lot of games because of COVID protocols. But we say that barring those injuries, right? I mean, I don't think going into the season that if everybody was healthy or relatively healthy, and if that's the case, I think you're disappointed though,
Yeah. So 500 was the mark for the play-in game last year. So that would be 41 wins this year. Celtics slated 46.5. Now, that would be what percentage out of 82? Because last year they didn't play 82, so these numbers get a little mixed up. 567, which last year would have been that 6th seed.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. So, that's kind of where this, I don't think anybody envisions them passing Brooklyn or Milwaukee. I'd really like Atlanta. I love the stride they hit last year. Obviously, they were, if Giannis stayed down and, they stayed on their feet a little bit, they had a real chance of making the NBA Finals last year. So I think that's something they can pivot off. Miami, I think they're in the same class. And so you're in that position that you said, fighting for 4. What you really don't want is the Knicks to exceed expectations, the Pacers, the Bulls, the Hornets. Do any of those Wizards too? I put the Wizards in that class. Do any of those teams intrigue you at possibly pushing Boston?
New York is tough. You say New York?
Mm-hmm. They're there. They were better than Celtics last year.
I mean, Chicago. Everyone's interested to see what Chicago's going to look like, but I just don't know defensively if they're going to be enough to get themselves in there. But then again, I could be wrong. That the offensive firepower could make them a top 5 team, or at least put them in the conversation of fighting for that 5th spot. So yeah, I guess those are the 2 teams that stand out to me the most. But it's going to be interesting because how this team matches up against the teams that will be ranked above them is going to be that's the approach in which they defend Giannis and the Bucks. How does that work if Rob's not who he used to be? Or how does that work against a team that has Al Horford now, that has Dennis Schroeder, 2 weapons that I'm going to continue to bring up the first couple of weeks heading into this regular season, because they just needed those kind of guys, whether it was instant offense or whether it was 2 guys that can just keep that ball flowing. We got so sick and tired of seeing that stagnant basketball, that you go, I go, and everyone take their turns, and then we sort of half-heartedly play defense. No, that has to stop. And that's one thing I'd say probably tops the list on what's impressed me the most about this team overall, is the fact that guys are holding each other accountable on the defensive end. So that's a big, that's a kind of thing where you look at matchups and you say, okay, well, if they're the 4th seed, so what? They got home court, and I like their chances against a team like the Bucks, because I like the way they defend them, or I like the fact that they're the only one of the few teams in the East that can really give the Brooklyn Nets a run for their money, So I think I'm going to keep my eye on that more than I will for the standings. I mean, obviously you want them to get home court, because that's going to be a huge, advantage in the playoffs. But overall, this isn't going to be a team that just has enough talent to have a better record than most of those top 2-3 teams in the East. But that doesn't mean that you can beat them in a 7-game series, though.
Yeah, you're right. The top end talent's not here. I mean, your 3rd guy feasibly is Al Horford if he's playing like he did early in the preseason. That's what kills me. Yeah. Brown came out gunslinging.
Oh, man.
Horford looked like his old self, and now all of a sudden you have the cloud over their head. Is there going to be lingering effects from COVID for both of those guys? Are they going to get back on time? Seems like Brown will. Horford, there's a big question just because of the timeline. We don't know either of their vaccination status, which I do think matters just in terms of the severity of the symptoms and just how it impacts guys. I think it lessens it, scientifically here if you do have that. And then, just can this depth pan out? Can these young guys step up? The young guys is a huge development. I know John hammered that in the first section of our show. Those guys being reliable rotation guys instead of, oh, geez, we got to play Langford. We got to play Neesmith. That's how we looked at those kind of starting lineups last year. Tonight I looked, all right, Romeo's in the Langford in the starting lineup. I was excited, just the way he's played, what he's given them, the activity.
Yeah.
For the first time ever. Yeah.
I don't think that's a question mark anymore, right, Bobby? 3 games ago, he was a question mark. Now he's in the rotation. He's not a starter. Well, maybe, but we have to wait and see. But
People are
2
gonna hate
weeks
this.
ago, you asked me, I'm like, he doesn't have a permanent spot in the rotation yet. He's got to earn it.
People are gonna hate this. If I see Grant in the starting lineup on opening night, I won't be terrified. This is a guy who's playing well, moving well. Did you see his pick and roll dunk?
Yeah.
He looked like Rob.
That was automatic too. It was one of those, like, he blinked twice. Next thing you knew, he was dunking. It was like,
He's getting up
man.
there. He's getting in passing lanes. He looks
Right.
bouncy. This is not the Grant of 2020. So
He
kudos
can
to these
fit through
young guys.
defenders now. Look at him.
I looked at the young core on this team with so much disgust last year. Like, I just didn't see the upside with these guys. They weren't improving. Pritchard did his thing in year one, but I didn't see a massive amount of upside with Neesmith, Grant, a big ability for these guys to get better. You know, some people would have just dumped some of these guys outright, and they ultimately did with Carson. But all 4 of them came out and were markedly better players against real competition. They got starting opportunities against Orlando, and they really looked in control and confident and poised. So that was a moment of the preseason for me, and overall a good preseason for this team. You saw a burst from Schroeder. Richardson started to fit in. I thought Smart played well in that first game, and Brown was outstanding with that 16-point burst that he had in that first quarter. Tatum, 40%. Does that concern you?
No. Let him get his reps in.
Just
He's
firing
warming up.
shots. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's getting to the free throw line. He did revert to being Mr. Complain about every single time I'm touched tonight, but other
Grant
than
was
that,
complaining too.
I like his approach. Yeah, he complains a lot. He's gone right back into that.
I guess last thing before we get out of here, we can hit on the Smart thing one more time because we did kick it around earlier this afternoon, and I don't think we've talked about it on here actually. So yeah, let's do this in full. Marcus Smart suspended tonight, out of the lineup, missed the flight to Orlando. Sean Grandy on the radio was saying that the Celtics went down to Orlando on Monday, 2 days early before the game. I don't know when Smart got in. He was there on Thursday talking about it, or rather not talking about it. They put him in front of the camera, and he said, we're moving on. Woj had the report that he missed the flight. My thing is, I'm not an experienced reporter. I haven't been around the league a long time. I don't know how common this is. Does this happen all the time and it gets swept under the rug and handled behind the scenes in a less public way than it happens here? Is this a troubling sign for a guy who's 8 years into the league, not able to make the team flight? I don't have a good idea of like just how seriously to take this, but it does say something to me that they made the big public display, leaked it to Woj and Shams before, and got the whole attention of the Celtics media for a day on Marcus Smart and his mishap. You know, you could have easily covered this up and handled it in-house if Smart wanted it to be done, and Ime said it was done, but at the end of the day, they put this out there in full view, and that says something to me.
Yeah, same. I agree. I think this is Ime setting a precedent, and I think that's something that he has to do, not only because this is his first year leading this team, but you have to set that tone because you're putting Marcus in a situation where he's the starting point guard. He has to lead by example, and this is a bad example. And I thought that Ime maybe went out of his way on this one to sort of put it out there that, look, this was my decision. And Bobby, I love the fact that you asked him that question. Like, wait, is this a team decision? Or is this Ime suspending Marcus Smart? Like, no, I did, and he hesitated a bit. He was like, you know what? No,
this is my role
I had with Marcus. So in other words, this isn't like, oh, just my bad, coach. I messed up. No, like we specifically spoke about this. So I think that spoke volumes for the whole team and for the direction that they're going in, and for the fact that from us, the outside looking in, or we know about it. Everyone knows about it. Celtics fans know about it. I think Ime is doing a good job of holding people accountable. Now, it's not always the bad side of accountability, right? The good side is what we saw a little bit tonight. What I love to see out of Jason Tatum, which is not only get into an opponent's face, but defend one of his guys, right? He helped Dennis Schroeder get up. They said, well, wait a minute, Jimmy, but back up. This is my guy. You know what I mean? That very first preseason game, we saw that out of two guys, in my opinion, Dennis Schroeder and Josh Richardson, two guys that weren't here last year. And I'm not saying that they're the ones that set the tone, but I just think it's a great way to look at where this team is compared to where they were, in that last playoff game. Everyone's sort of holding each other accountable on defense. Everyone's sort of defending each other. And I also think I'll even take a step further. I think guys stepping up is sort of like a bit of, obviously it's a display of what they've been going through in their progression, but also it's sort of like, hey, we got each other's back around here. Marcus, you suspended. You know what? I'm going to ball out and do my thing. We got each other's back out here. Al's sick. Jaylen. I think all that is relevant with this team, and I think that's gonna really help this team become more tighter and make them have that sort of us versus everybody else mentality. I think that's really important. I think that's something that Ime is trying to plant right away. He's doing a good job.
What line did Jay King use in his piece? What Brad Stevens would have said in that situation? This is challenging or something like that.
No, what's the word he used to always say? It's an obstacle or something like that. Yeah.
I gotta pull up exactly what word Jay used. Jay is a funny writer. Brad Stevens would have called the situation a curveball.
A
What
curveball.
great
I thought it
line.
was a curveball. Yeah.
What a great
Throw the
line.
curveball. He's always saying.
What a great line to throw into this piece.
Jay writes the way he talks sometimes. Like, it's good though. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like you know exactly the comedy he has when he
made me laugh. Made me laugh. So I have a piece out as well on what you just talked about, the difference in Ime, how things feel, how things look around training camp. I know Richardson compared it to the Heat culture that he played in for a couple of years at the beginning of his career. Obviously, he had the Smart Grant fight. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that situation, which was kind of weird a week or so ago.
Yeah, I love it, and I love the fact that it had to do with flopping, which used
and
to
how
be
about Al
used
on
to be
Saturday?
Marcus's MO years ago, right?
I like this too. Al coming out. I wasn't here last Saturday. I want to start. Like, hesitated first. Yeah. And then he caught himself and was like, no, let me answer the question. I want to start. That was great. I think a lot of guys are really competing here. And, different roles got to be hashed out. Grant earned his, I felt like. Neesmith and Langford. Brad set a challenge out to the young guys before camp. If they're an opportunity, they're an opportunity. But we look like an older team here this year. So overall, preseason's good. Troubling signs. COVID's in the room. That's not great after last year. I don't even think there's a lot going around the rest of the league from what I caught glimpsing around the different teams so far in terms of like pure COVID cases. So hard to blame guys for that. It's so random. I know Smart talked about that the other day when I asked him. And then injuries. You don't like seeing that early either. Like, is this just going to be part 2 of last year with all the different things they dealt with on that front? We'll see. Opening night, Wednesday, we will talk about some more. Here's Josue Pavon from Heavy.com and CLNS Media.